A top Ukrainian commander says Russian troops are attempting to advance in the border region of Kursk, with thousands amassing in the area. Emmanuelle Chaze is a journalist in Kiev and joins us now. Emmanuelle, what are you hearing there in Kiev that there is this Russian offensive to retake territory in Kursk is imminent?
Well, this is an information that we got from U.S. experts as well as from Ukrainian officials. Now, we have to keep in mind that the Kursk operations from the Ukrainian side have started last August. It's been 3+ months that Ukrainian forces hold territory there, hold settlements there, and that Russia didn't manage to respond in kind and to retake that territory within Russia. So we were always expecting an operation to start at some point. It seems that it's imminent because Russia apparently amassed enough soldiers, gathered enough soldiers, as many as 50,000, without taking them from the front line in eastern Ukraine to begin such an operation. So this is not something that comes as a surprise. This is something that Kiev was expecting. Now, what remains to be seen is just how efficient those troops will be and how efficient a Russian offensive in that Kursk region would be, with Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, who had said several times that this operation in Kursk region for Ukraine was aimed at showing that if there would be a buffer zone between the two countries, it doesn't have to be on Ukrainian territory. It can also well be on Russian territory in Kursk region, for example.
So if this is not a surprise offensive from Russia, then what are Ukrainian forces? How are they planning for this response?
Well, so far they are holding their positions in that Kursk region. We have to keep in mind that the front line is over 1,000 kilometers long. It's not just in Kursk regions, it's also in eastern Ukraine, where Ukrainian forces are really overstretched. The situation is really tense, especially near the city of Kursk. We have talked about this city, and also in the city of Kurakhove right now in Donetsk region, where Russian forces really are trying their utmost to gain territory as much as possible. And this comes also as no surprise. We know that during winter, the advances are usually slower. So Russia was bound to try to get more territory. It's also bound to get as much territory as possible before President-elect Trump comes into play and proposes, for example, a ceasefire, a buffer zone. And for that, Russia was bound to try and get as much territory as possible to have an advantage in any discussion, in any possible negotiations in the future.
Yes, and you're talking about the different scenarios that might come about when the 47th President Donald Trump comes into power in January. What are the expectations there? I mean, you've said that that Russia is trying to take as much territory as possible. But what about the Ukrainian front? How is Ukraine feeling, particularly people where you are in Kiev, feeling about the presidency and his promise to end the war within one day?
Well, there are several things at stake here. First, on the government part, the government is actively preparing for more talks with Donald Trump. We know that President Zelensky talked to Donald Trump and to Elon Musk the past week, and he said that this discussion was positive. Apparently, President-elect Trump has listened more than he has talked. He has asked several questions to Volodymyr Zelensky, but there's also a worry here in Kyiv that we know the ties between President-elect Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, and there's a worry that Trump might want to dictate something to Ukraine that is not in Ukraine's interest. Ukraine has a peace plan that it wants to apply, and that would see its territorial integrity respected, its sovereignty respected, which is not the case at the moment because we have regions that are illegally occupied. I'm thinking about Crimea since 2014, parts of Donbass as well since 2014, but also parts of Kherson region, parts of Zaporizhia, regions that have been occupied since 22. So there's a worry that those terms might not be respected in case of discussions, or in case President-elect Trump will dictate the agenda. And of course, within the population, there's the worry also about the unpredictability of the president-elect when it comes to his decision-making. Having said that, Ukrainians are taking it one day at a time. They are under daily attack here.
At the same time, the UK Defence Force Chief Sir Tony Radakin says that Russia has suffered its worst casualties in a month in terms of 1,500 people killed or wounded in each day. What does that say about both the Russian and the Ukrainian operations?
Well, it doesn't come as a surprise seen from Kyiv, because we've seen since 2014 that military personnel's lives are not something that Russia seems to deeply care about, and it has advanced on Ukrainian territory mainly because of its superiority in terms of number of soldiers, number of equipments. And we see, for example, if we look at assaults by Russian forces, we see that they would throw 10 men into a battle, 9 would die, which is enormous. 1 would survive. He would wait for the next wave of assault when another 10 men would come. Also 1 would survive. And then they would try to regroup and to relaunch an assault. It's a strategy to exhaust Ukrainian forces. It is working in a certain measure, but the advances are still quite slow. We have to remember that Vladimir Putin had said he would take Kyiv in 3 days in February 22. We're well into 2024, and this is far from being the case, and Ukrainian retains 80% of its territory so far.
Okay, Emmanuelle Chaze in Kiev, thanks very much for keeping us up to date with what's happening with this long and protracted war. Thanks very much.